Welcome back for another book review. The lighting is what it is. I have learned I need to get sheer curtains to block the sun because the weird awkward lighting is gonna be here at least most of the winter. So also, oh, she decided to make an appearance very early. Office cat. She's adorable. Oh, maybe she'll just hang out there. Anyways, on to the book review. So the book we are talking about today is this one. So this is Modern Wicca, Beliefs and Traditions for Contemporary Life by Rowan Morgana. I want to say that's how it's pronounced. So this is a relatively small book. Honestly, I had really low expectations for this book. I thought it was going to be another trendy witch book. I really did not anticipate liking this one. Because, I mean, first of all, it's from a pretty random publishing house. Again, not one of the main names. And it just gives the vibe of like, kind of like, I don't know, like the font is really huge. And like one of the things that instantly I was like, oh, this is not going to be good is it's a random thing, but it's a thing. And it's the format. So most books, actually, I will compare side by side here because I have a stack of books I'm talking about today. So my other example is this one, it'll be on the author channel. But notice how the formatting is on the paragraphs. See how this has straight lines, mostly, you know, because like obviously the end of a sentence, you know, it's whatever, like an end of a paragraph. But over here, it's like these jiggity jaggities all the time. And then this is like solid. Yeah, I was nervous making because I'm like, you know, like it's probably not going to be great if we've also got that. Because typically when you open any document thing, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, this is the standard. Like this is what it sets it to. I tried to find out what it's called. It wasn't wanting to find an answer, and honestly I didn't care that much because it ended up not being an issue, really. I mean, it's a little thing of like, but why? And I expect more from publishing houses, but also it just kind of feels like a publishing standard. Like, I don't know why we didn't just, it's one click and it fixes it. Like, I can see first drafts, even in the editing. I usually change mine by that point, but whatever. You just highlight the document and then instead of like, I think it's like left oriented so that it'll always start on the left side of the document, you change it to be like, it's not centered, but it's like, it has the lines that go across all the way. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what you would call it. I tried to Google it, couldn't really find an answer. I don't actually care that much, but you know what I'm talking about. So that was giving me also like, oh no, this might not be good vibes. And then lastly, like the pictures. This is a pretty standard picture from Shutterstock or some other website similar, like maybe Pixabay, where it's royalty-free pictures. And I think through Shutterstock you have to pay for the rights to it, but still, given those vibes. And I was like, okay, and then the cover's like, it's pretty, but also is it just gonna be, you know? Like I was really not anticipating this to be a good book. And then I read it and I was so surprised the whole time. Because again, big font, which I kind of sometimes appreciate because I was reading this in low lighting and I could see it very well and not have to struggle. Other than the first page, which was also a thing that gave me some issue. Really long text, really small font. Typically it's within there that we've previously found some red flags of mine that instantly really hit a book, and you gotta work up from a 1-star where it's like, oh, it's for entertainment purposes only. And I'm like, then why did you write it? And I was really anticipating that on that page and it wasn't there. It was just your usual disclaimer of like, hey, don't hurt yourself. Okay, we're not liable for that. And it was just really long legal disclaimer. And, you know, that's fine because people are dumb. So like, sure, tell people to like, don't be an idiot and like ingest something you're allergic to. Sure. But like, then I read it and it was really good. This was like, this has become a recommended book. And like, it's so good, in fact, that like, when you read a beginner book on Wicca and witchcraft and paganism, especially when you've been doing it as long as I have, this year it'll be 15 years, like, you kind of get used to seeing the same basic information. So when you can find something that makes it stand out a little bit versus all of the others, it's nice. This had that. And like when you get a little nugget that like intrigues your brain who's been doing this again over a decade, like it's nice. It's nice to have something that you're like, oh, That's fun. This had that. My chapter was the moons. Now, it doesn't line up exactly to like what every other book says, no. It kind of does, but kind of doesn't. A lot of books, you know, we have 13 moons, but 12 months. And so some people will focus more on like the astrological side of it, where it's like the full moon in whatever. Like, I think right now we just left Scorpio. Whatever the next one is. I should know that. I just wrote them down. Whatever's the next one is. I feel like it's Earth. Is it Capricorn? It might be Capricorn. Now that I think about it. Maybe. Something like that. Anyways, a full moon in Capricorn versus like a new moon in like Cancer. So like you have the, you know, that phase of looking at the moon, and that each of the zodiacs has a purpose. And so you emphasize the moon that way. This didn't do that. There's also like, I don't know. I'm not sure how much people like this or not, because I've heard it kind of argued both ways, that like the names that are associated to the moons can sometimes be like a little like cultural appropriation and just kind of culturally insensitive, because it's like Native American, and it's like, okay, what tribes? Like, be specific. And again, even regionally, to mention it. Because I don't think all of the many tribes are gonna have the same across the board. Again, very big continent that we live on here. But, you know, like those things, it does, like, I feel like I need to research it more, which is one of my projects for the year. But like, she has that in here. But if we just take that chunk aside, the rest of it was really interesting. Like, each month having a specific theme, because I love that. I love the months. Like, that is the system we've been raised on, and like it does tend to kind of work well as like a magical system of like January is this vibe, February is this vibe. They're different. And like, yes, you have the wheel of the year, but also like most of us have to tweak it because we do not live in like the UK because our climates aren't the same. Where they're like, oh my god, it's in bulk. Look at the flowers popping up. Look at the snows melting, and like a lot of us are just sitting there like, I don't relate, but good for you. We still have like 4 feet of snow, but okay, you have fun with that. And like looking at their weather patterns is always fun because you're okay, sure. Like I looked at like the weather patterns, totally random, but for like Ireland, because like I just didn't anticipate how little of a fluctuation they have of weather. Like the average of like the whole year and like seasonally, like their highs and lows is like, oh, that's like a day here. Okay. Like it was just, it's crazy when you live in like relatively extreme climates, where here in Utah, like we get really hot in the summer, we can get into the hundreds, 110s at times, and then also we can drop below 0 simultaneously. So it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like the opposites of the year. The solstice seasons, we can have both of the extremes. So like to have like this little narrow time. Anyways, that was such a side tangent, but like the idea that the months can have their own like magical intentions, I just loved the idea of it. And like they have in the book, there's like specific deities to work with. And I loved that Morrigan got October, but Hecate got November. That was fun. I did not anticipate that one. And like, this is just such a good beginner book. Like it just briefly covers stuff, but also does it so well. And again, I wasn't anticipating to like this. I was ready to hate this book. Like again, stuff I mentioned at the beginning, I was ready. I had all my notes ready to go, and then I was like, oh, it's actually kind of good. Like for a beginner book, it's a good book. Like this is one that I would highly recommend to any beginner. And like if you have somebody who's really curious, this is a really good book to hand them because it explains stuff very well. And it gives you like a nice little like intro. Like it's not by any means the only book you should have if you're interested in Wicca and witchcraft and paganism. This is not the end all. But it is a very good start. And again, if you just have somebody in your life who's curious, this is a really good book to hand them. It goes over ethics, beliefs, it talks about tools, and it talks about the wheel of the year, it talks about the moons, it talks about some of the deities, it talks about all of the things. It talks a little bit about spell work, it gives you some ideas. Doesn't explain everything, I feel like. But it's like a good like little like test taste of what is this. And it's just, I mean, it's a small book, so obviously not everything's going to be explained. Like, I didn't really see any notice of like, what is grounding and centering, and is there a difference between the two? Because I just recently wrote that chapter, well, those chapters in my own book, and so like now like that in particular was like standing out. I'm like, I don't think you mentioned that like at all. But it's just little things like that you're like, okay, so you'd need to have additional books, but if you wanted to like introduce somebody to it who's not actually going to be practicing and doesn't actually care, like this is a great book because it gives them an idea. Are they going to care what exactly grounding and centering is? No, but they're going to get the gist. They're going to get an idea of what you're supposed to do. And it talks about like the influence of like kind of the New Age movement into Wicca and witchcraft and again modern paganism. Like it's so well written and I was so surprised. Like again, I really thought I was gonna hate this book and now I have it on my to-be bought list. Like sometimes authors just really surprise you where you're like, I thought this was gonna suck and it really didn't. So anyways, obviously I loved this book. I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. Have you had an experience like that too? Where like you expect that you're gonna really hate a book and then you read it and you're like, oh, actually it was good though. Cause like I'm having the same experience in a lot of ways with the next one I'm reading that theoretically you'll see tomorrow, which is Backwoods Witchcraft. I'm looking at it over there on my desk right now. And same thing in a lot of ways of like, I thought I was gonna hate this and now I don't. How weird. Don't worry, I'm sure that will not continue, but we'll see. I have a lot of books to go through by the end of the year. So anyways, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Huge thank you as always to my patrons. If you want to support me, it's patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Until next time, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For the rest of the year, I'm posting Monday through Friday, and then starting in the new year, because yes, we get to start making those plans, I am thinking about trying to go back to 7 days a week, and the weekends are going to be like magic info days, but like really random stuff, because like I'm so over the beginner stuff of like every channel has the same content, so I'm just rebelling in my own strange ways, and like I'm gonna make a whole video just talking about a random thing. So like currently I'm going through herbs and stones, so it's like I want to make a Book of Shadows page and then we're gonna talk about it. And so like I'm going to be talking about like, what is the magical purpose of an onion and a potato and like blueberries and apples, and like what about like all of the stones that we always talk about? Like what about citrine and amethyst, and also random ones like white, what are you? I want to say citrine and it's not that word. Sapphire, white sapphire, because I didn't get a diamond. And like white gold and just gold in general, and like just there's a lot of like really random stuff that I just feel like talking about and like nobody talks about that kind of random stuff. So I'm thinking about doing that on the weekends, and like just I don't know if they're gonna be short videos or long videos, I don't know, but I think they would be fun because I don't really see that terribly often. And even like there's a few blogs that I'll find, because I'm obviously doing research because I'm writing another witchy book that I will probably talk about at some point, but patrons know what's going on. But like, as I'm doing all of this research, it's like certain ones will be like, oh, I know you have good information, and then they don't have all the stuff, and I'm like, bye, okay. Anyways, and so I feel like that's a fun thing to have on the channel, just like really random, like let's talk about like parsnips. What's the magical association with them? I don't freaking know. Like, I just know they're like kind of a carrot, potato, weird mix thing. They're interesting. I like to cook with them. I haven't in a long time, just because I forget that they exist, honestly, when I go to buy food. But like, stuff like that, like I feel like those are gonna be fun little videos, and then like I might have other ones as we go, but like for now, those are like my main things of like, as I'm cooking, I'm like just making a list of ingredients to be like, what is the magical association? Like, what is basil for? Like, I know it's, like, I only know a couple things off the top of my head, and others, I don't know. Right now, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what oregano is good for. But, like, I want to have a page for that in my Book of Shadows. Well, one of my books of shadows. I have a lot of binders, so that's another thing that I'll be showing in next year. I'm making a lot of plans for the new year, needless to say. So anyways, I have a lot of content coming next year. That's the whole point of that random side tangent. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling and let this camera underheat, and I will see you tomorrow for another book review.